Hey, I thought I would do a tutorial setting up arrays similar to how C Sharp does delegates. Um, it's a little bit different on how you would use an array, but it is highly effective. I find it's a beautiful little tool. So you're probably wondering, well, what do you mean by that? So I'll just delete all this. And what I'm saying is if you take, we'll say a manager here, okay? He is nothing, he does nothing, but we're going to give him an FSM. We'll call this FSM list. Now inside of it, what if we have logic? I'm not going to build anything fancy, but let's, for example, we're going to get the mouse button down. Right, so if we get the mouse button down, now what we want to do is we need, and you don't have to use PlayMaker for this, you can do it with normal arrays, it works fine. But I'm going to make this proxy component, call it list. It is type game object. That's very important. Okay, so over here now, I'm going to send an event of everything in that list. We are going to make an event. We're going to say hot, cold. I don't know why I chose those, but that's what we're choosing. Hot. And then let's go back. Actually, you know what? Let's go like this. Event 1, event 2. Make them random. Alright, so this one, let's send cold. There we go. So we're going to click the mouse button down. We're just going to go into this quick little random 1 and 2, and then we're going to send everything on the list an event called hot or an event called cold, right? So what's in that list? I am not going to pre-fill that at all. Now this is where it becomes more like, say, a delegate system. So if I create a cube, there's our cube, and let's give him a rigid body and a FSM. Oh, it's one thing we got to do up here. Let's give this guy another FSM because we have to name him. Get owner. Put him into the globals. We already made a global, so he's getting himself, storing himself into this variable called manager. But we're actually going to do that same thing with these guys. We're going to get owner, but we're obviously not going to store that into a global. Lord Hunter, need to have tons of globals everywhere. Just a normal variable, we'll call it self. But we are going to do this array list add of the global game object manager, which we know that list is called list. We know it's a game object type, and the variable we want to add is ourself. So we're getting ourself, we're adding ourself to this guy's list. And that's literally all this guy needs to do. Now there is a little trick with this, Because, for example, if I hit play, you'll see if I go over to this guy's contents, there is that cube, right? This guy has successfully added himself to this guy's list. Now, there is a little problem with that. If I duplicate this guy and I hit play, if I go over, my contents only have that one. It didn't add these two. These two, their logic built the exact same. I just duplicated them. They didn't work. So there is a couple different fixes. So normally, logically, the thing you would do is you would say, do this, then you would go to another state, then you would check this guy's list and use the array list contains and see if he contains this guy, and if not, we'll loop around and do it again. If it doesn't, we'll loop around and do it again. Okay. There's a trick I've learned with PlayMaker, and something I don't even know where I found this, but I start all my FSMs with a next frame event. And you're probably thinking, well, that's stupid, it shouldn't change anything. And just doing that, I have found that it has fixed so many little stupid bugs for me. It is redonkulous. Right? And it's such a simple thing. And you're probably thinking that's not going to work, but there it is. They've all added themselves, and that's all I did. They all have it. They all have that same logic. So they're all still firing in that same frame, but it's not in that start frame. There you have it. A next frame at the start of your FSM changes worlds. Okay, so our cube adds itself. Now we want things to happen, so things to happen. And we have an event called hot, and we have an event called cold. So if we get cold, we get hot. Let's scale. This is just an easy way to demonstrate things. Let's copy that. There we go. Okay, so just this one guy by himself. Now, if I click the mouse button, right, nothing happens because I obviously didn't do something right. Oh, yeah, there we did. We forgot to send the event. Oh, look at that, eh? So he needs to go to the go. And I'm not too worried about that. There we have, it's just going to randomly choose a different thing. Okay, so our logic there is working. Don't worry about these, but by all means, if you want to, I don't know, add those, I suppose you could. Sure. I don't know if that's going to screw anything up, but hey, let's take a look. If they're not global, it should be okay. Oh yeah, of course I totally screwed something up. Yeah. What if we tell them that it is global? No. Alright, well, here, just to get rid of the errors. Exclude self. We don't want to be screwing that up. Oh yeah. There we go. Now it works. We did that just to get rid of the errors. It wasn't going to hurt anything. It wasn't going to do anything, but seeing red is obviously ugly, so here we have a bunch of things. But now if I say take these cubes and bring them out, they'll all get the event, right? Bloop. Because they've added themselves to that list. So I am firing the event to the list. So this becomes a beautiful little method on how you would handle data going over for managers. This can be used in spawn systems, weather, time of day, even quests and stuff like that. You have a list of everything that needs to know about whatever event this thing is controlling, right? And you could make 50 different lists here if you want to, right? You can add this guy. He needs to know about time. He needs to know about weather. He needs to know about status of a certain quest, right? You can make lists for all of those different things. And then as those things happen in the manager fires the events to everything in those lists. So the only things that get the events are the things that care about the events. Okay, so the alternative method to this is to send an event like using this. Is you send an event and you broadcast. Okay. Now, this is not a good method to use. If it's a tiny game, small things, that's great. But if you have objects happening, it's not the most friendly system. Because if you look at your hierarchy, it sends it to everything and not just the first layer, right? Like if I have one character in here, look at how many objects receive that event, right? So its broadcast has to go through and it's going to fire upon everything, right? It's just what it does. So when you start developing a world and maybe you have, there's 30 guys running around and there's some trees and there's bushes and there's this and there's that, or there's buildings, whatever. You have all these little objects, you have managers, you got things. All of a sudden that broadcast event starts to send off to like 10, 20,000 different events, right? Where this method, maybe you only need 50 things. Maybe you need 100 things. Maybe you need 500 things. Whatever the case is, this is a far more efficient method than the broadcast. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.